there, Alexa. Hi, Frankie. Hey, Ty. Hi, Sarah and Hannah. Hi there, Orion and Leo. Hi again, Alexa. And we have Mary and Marie and Jules and Liliana and Mia. Hello, David, and hello, Matthew. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. If you're still coming into our room, we're going to get started here in just a few minutes. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. We would love to hear from you and how you're doing today. My name is Max, and I'm just really excited to be playing with y'all today. I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun.
Yeah. My name's Tamara, and I'm really excited to have so many little scientists with us today. This is really cool.
Let's see. Hi, Beckett. Hi, Amelia and Michaela. Hello, Zola and Wyatt and Evelyn and Kate and Preston and Dorothy Sue. Dorothy Sue, congratulations on finishing kindergarten on Monday. That is awesome.
Yay!
And we have Kieran. Hi, Kieran. Thank you so much to everybody for joining us. This is going to be just so much fun. We're going to get started here in just a moment. Tamara, how are you doing this morning?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. I've just spent most of the morning setting this up and putting it in front of this wonderful background that my two children put together.
Oh my goodness.
Cute little colorful circles.
That is awesome. That is really cool.
Yeah. Warm outside today, though, already.
I know. I'm excited to get outside too. And I think that
Yeah.
some of what we're going to play with and learn today will help us to go outside later on too.
Yeah. Maybe some of our learners are even outside today, this morning. That would be fun. Nice day to do that.
All right, pals. Looks like it is. Hi, Nora.
Hi, Nora.
Age 5.5. That is cool. Thanks for joining us. All right. Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us for our first ever Little Lab at Home. This is going to be so much fun. Today's program is called What Happens When It Rains? And today we're going to be doing a couple of things. For the most part, I will be talking to some of our parents and caregivers and other folks who are, let's say, a little bit on the older side that are joining us today to talk a little bit more about how what we're doing supports some of the development and learning in the little ones who are joining today. So my name is Max, and I work at the Museum of Life and Science, and I'm joined by my really, really good friend this morning.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tamara. I work at the Museum of Life and Science too, and I'm going to talk a lot to the little ones to find out what they're doing and what they're looking at and what they're noticing. So I'm looking forward to seeing comments and everything.
So along with today's experiment, we also have a materials list, which you may or may not have gotten before. If you got it and you have the materials in front of you, that is really awesome. If you don't, that is also super awesome because you can come back to this video and keep doing the stuff that we are doing in here later on. You can continue exploring even after our very, very short 15-minute program today. We're hoping that all we're doing is setting up something for you to explore for a longer time. Today, like I said, we're going to do a couple of things. One thing we're going to do is just play. Now, play is a really, really important part of childhood development for a whole bunch of reasons that we'll try to cram into this very short program today. But mostly we are going to be playing with this stuff in here. We're going to be playing with water. Okay, so water is a really, really interesting thing, right? Now, the very first thing that I would love for you to do is think about how water, the stuff that you might have in here or that you might have in this bowl in front of me, how is this different from something else that you might have like this? So our very first experiment is really simple. It's just to touch them, to feel them. So I've got a Duplo block here, and then I've got this stuff in front of me too. And talk together about how they're similar and how they are different. Now there's a few obvious differences, right? Tamara, can you tell me one?
Yeah, I have a large Duplo block as well, and I have some water here. And I actually put food coloring in my water, so I have some red water here. And I find that when I touch the water, it sticks to me and it drips. And when I touch the Dupo block, it's really hard. And this one is pretty bumpy.
Pretty bumpy.
So
I
they
like
definitely
that word.
feel.
What kind of words can you think of to describe these? You can either talk about it together as a group, or if you want to, you can also put it into the chat. We'd love to hear it too. Now, we still have one of these. Let's use something else. You might have one of these too. What is this, Tamara?
Yeah, I do have one of those. This is a sponge.
Okay, excellent. Are these two the same or are they different? Or maybe I should say, how are they same and how are they different?
Yeah, I see here. Oh, I like the description words of one of the water and the block were hard, but in the water was drippy. And I also noticed, yes, that my colors are different. So
Hmm,
different colors of
that's
these.
good. What a good thing to note. Yeah, I'm loving that one of these, my sponge, feels a little bit squishier. I can sort of mash it up a little bit. I can't really
Mm,
do this one, right?
no.
Now, somebody in our chat said something really excellent, that one of them is a liquid and one of them is a solid. And indeed, we're going to talk about the properties of states of matter. Okay, on the count of three, everybody say matter together. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Matter.
Matter.
Okay, so matter is basically stuff. Now, not all stuff is the same. This block is stuff. This water is stuff. The air all around me is stuff. All of these are pretty different. And a characteristic is basically a way that you can maybe describe something about how it feels or how it looks. So the color being different is a really, really excellent characteristic. What an excellent scientific skill of putting it into a new category, of characterizing something. Now, solids, like our block here, like somebody said, are usually pretty rigid, and sometimes they're not as rigid like this sponge that I have here. But for the most part, they're not doing some of the other stuff that we have with our water. They're not dripping. They're not sort of dribbling around. And we're going to explore some ways that solids and liquids are kind of different from each other while we are doing this program, while we're together today. And we hope that you'll continue to explore them later on. But there's one more state of matter that we're going to deal with a little bit less today that I think is really important to talk about right here. And that one is, does anybody know? If you know, let us know in the chat. It's gases. Okay, Tamara, how can we interact with a gas?
Oh, so gases, since they're all around us, one of the important things that we do with them is breathe in with them. So can you all take a deep breath with me and fill our lungs with gas? 1, 2, 3.
That felt really
Oh,
good.
yeah,
Yeah,
very
awesome.
relaxing.
Super relaxing. Okay, cool. So we have interacted so far with a solid, with some liquid, and a gas. Let's take another deep breath. Ready? These three states of matter have some things in common, but also have some things that are different about them. For the rest of the program today, we're going to talk a whole lot about mostly solids and liquids. And the particular liquid that we are going to talk about, again, is water, because water is a really safe and fun thing for us to be playing with. Now, the activity that we're going to be doing over the next couple of minutes is based off of an activity that you can find developed by the National Informal Science Education, or NISE network. And if you want more materials or more stuff to support learning on it, you can find that at nisenet.org. I'm going to switch my camera over tomorrow, but would you show us a little bit of stuff that you have for this experiment today?
Yeah, definitely. So I have the big Lego block that we were talking about earlier. I also have some felt that while it's a solid, it's one of the solids that, much like our sponge, can be squished. So it's a little softer. I have my sponge. I have some foil here that I just kind of crumpled up a little bit to give it some shape. And I have a petri dish with this. It's called a little bath. Uh, it's now I can't remember what it's called, but they're like little tablets that you can put in the bath, and we're gonna see what happens whenever water hits them. So I'm excited about that.
Well,
The
that's
other thing
excellent.
I heard you say was that that this is a good way, like description and characterizing was a good way to put things into little categories and into groups. And I thought that was really cool, like either colors or how they feel, and categorizing stuff is an important part of science.
Good point, Tamara. Yeah, and doing that makes you a little scientist. It helps you to build your early scientist skills. One thing that I love that you have is tinfoil, this stuff, or aluminum foil, because I have one like this, and I have one that looks like this. Now, is this a solid, a liquid, or a gas? No, it's a solid, right? But I have one that looks super different, and I have another one that looks kind of long. And a lot of folks said that solids keep their shapes, but I can go like this. Everybody give that a try. This is actually really, really fun to do. And using materials and tools like this and shaping them is really, really neat. So I'm going to take a second to do that. And yeah, not all solids are hard and rigid like this one. Some of them you can move and bend. And exploring how materials feel is another really excellent science process skill, is a really, really important thing that all of us can be doing together. And now that I have a few different solids here in my tray, and I'm using this tray because I don't want to get everything else super wet, I've got some other things that I can use to help explore with water. One thing that I have is just a turkey baster. And for this turkey baster, I can, and this is a great early process skill, fill it up with water like I am here by squeezing the top. Now that is weird and unusual. I'd love for you also to think about how that works. Now that I've got some water in here, I can then squeeze the top again, and I'd love for you to watch how it moves along that tin foil. And maybe try putting it on some of these blocks. Does it move similar, or does it move different? Or maybe a better question is, how does it move similarly, or how does it move differently?
That's great. I'm going to use some water too. I actually don't have a turkey baster, but I did use a little dropper for it.
Nice. I
And
have a dropper too. Uh-oh, there goes my
oh, awesome.
camera. Goodbye.
I also put food coloring in my water so I could see it a little better. So whenever I drop it on here, I can see how the water is moving along the aluminum foil. So
That
it's
is
not so
excellent.
clear.
Oh my goodness,
Oh,
my camera fell off. That's fun.
are you noticing it's different on your different types of foil?
I am noticing that it's acting really differently based on what I put it in. And I also love just picking up the water using the dropper or the turkey baster by pulling on the top of my dropper. And then I love spraying it back into the water because it moves really differently in the water as it does on the aluminum foil too. One other fun thing that I like to do, and this is building on another science process skill that we use in laboratories a whole lot, is you can almost use one of these as like a micro pipette well. You can practice filling up these little holes with our dropper, which helps to
Oh,
build fine and gross motor skills. Because pouring and moving and manipulating water is a really, really, really important early childhood development activity.
yeah, what a fun activity that is. I see that somebody said that their water stayed in a big droplet as they put it on the Lego, which I think is a great observation
Oh
or
my goodness.
great something to notice. I've also been kind of pouring my water off of my Lego just to see how the water droplets move down, which it looks really neat when I do that.
All right, here's another weird one. Let's try putting our sponge in our water and seeing what happens. Does it act differently or similarly to our aluminum foil? And then like we did with our aluminum foil, you can squeeze that too, but wow, that also acts really different.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Why
It's
is
really
that?
pouring out.
Why is that? And if you put your aluminum foil in there, it doesn't quite do the same thing. It still drips, but it's not keeping everything in it. This is another way of maybe predicting why something is different, but also definitely categorizing. So far we've used a few really excellent methods of thinking about science as an early process skill. One being categorizing. We've done a little bit of measuring. We've done some predicting. You can also do some problem solving here. And if we think about what happens when it rains, I've got a little plant here. Another fun way of spreading and using water with one of these, is with one of these spray bottles. And spray bottles are fun to spray, again, onto our aluminum foil, and maybe, again, onto a dry sponge where you can slowly see what happens when that happens. That is cool.
I've just in case I couldn't use the spray bottle, I did use this pouring one, so I don't have to squeeze that trigger, just in case that might be tough for some of our scientists.
I love that, Tamara. Thanks. And then you can get imaginative with it. And I built some little houses. I know they don't look too much like houses, but that's okay. And you can think, if this is rain, if you're pretending that this is rain, what's happening to the rain when it gets onto one of these houses? And how is it different if it's on top of a sponge or if it's on top of just the bottom of my tray here? Because my tray is starting to get a lot of water in it, but my sponge still, you know, it's absorbing a whole lot of water. And this is a really, really important lesson for when we take some of these things outside. I brought an even bigger plant here for us to take a look at. Let's see what that looks like here when I spray some water on it.
Hmm.
And what I'd love for you all to try out is try a bunch of different ways of moving water around, exploring how it interacts with all of these materials, and making predictions about why that might be or how you might use this information later on in your life. So far, we've done a bunch of different, really, really important early childhood pieces, things that you and your child can continue to use later on. It's not always, science is not always about finding the right answer, but it's a lot more about trying stuff out. It's about learning through exploring and imaginative play, like my house here. It's about opportunities to build social skills along with building houses and then spraying them with rain to see what happens and what lessons we can take back, right? But it's also about building communication, vocalizing why you think some of this stuff is happening, collaborating, again, in family groups like a lot of y'all are doing right now, and building emotional skills like resilience and self-regulation. It's also about building physical skills like we talked about, doing our micropipetting activity. So getting water up into a dropper or a baster and then getting really, really careful with putting it into these. And it's so much less about whether you're able to get it in there or whether it stays in there, and so much more about practicing it and doing it, which I think is really, really, really neat. Building this stuff is really excellent for, again, fine and gross motor skills, for building, for making use of methods and for practicing. It's also really, really important in this moment. Play is really, really excellent at developing and maintaining social and emotional skills needed to deal with changing and challenging circumstances for children, as well as building resilience and the creativity that we need to adapt. All of this can help kids reduce anxiety, take control over their situations, strengthen social relationships, and imagine positive scenarios. And even though, again, this is a pretty simple activity with some pretty simple materials, this is something that you and your kids can continue to do after we are all finished up today, to keep building, keep playing, and to keep imagining how important that play is in both of your development as people and as a family unit.
That was great, Max. Excellently said. I think I had a great time exploring these materials with you and seeing how different they all acted from each other.
I did too, Tamara. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to take it back from my experiment cam now. All the way back to me. Okay, I've got some moss. Like I said, I've got a troll doll that I wanted to see what the hair looks like when I get it wet, or the skin, or the clothes. So there's a lot for me to continue to explore, and I'm sure that there's a whole lot for you to continue to explore, because you can use all of these materials that we gave to y'all through this material list, but you can use other stuff that we didn't get to today, like a pasta strainer. This one's probably going to be pretty interesting. Oh, here we go. That's the big mess. So parents, once again, caregivers, I would highly, highly suggest having a towel nearby as you continue to explore together. Thank you so much again for joining me, Tamara, and everybody else who joined us here today. And we hope you'll join us here again next week at 10 a.m. for our next little lab at home, which we're calling Nature Soup, which will be really fun.
Thank you all so much. I look forward to seeing you again.
Me too. All right, back to exploring. Thanks again, everybody.